I've got something truly extraordinary for you today. These are the best minutes you will ever spend, and I guarantee you it's going to open up a world of possibilities. Welcome to this extremely rare recording that's about to shift your perspective and empower your life in ways you never thought possible. Now let's dive straight into the heart of the matter. You know, people often place stones over their energy centers thinking it's some magical healing solution. But let me tell you, the real power lies in where you put your attention. It's not about external objects, it's about your focus. And yes, there is a placebo effect, but it goes much deeper than that. Let's talk about the first three energy centers: survival, consumption, and power. These are not bad at all. In fact, they are essential for our existence. The first center, all about procreation and survival. Think about it. To ensure the perpetuity of a species, you make the act of procreation pleasurable. It's wired into our biology. The second center, it's all about consumption and safety. When you feel safe and secure, your body is in balance and you can enjoy the pleasures of consumption, including food. Now, the third center, the powerhouse of energy and challenges. When you take on challenges and succeed, it activates this center, and yes, it takes energy to get up and face those challenges. But here's the key. All three centers are consumers of energy, drawing from the vital field, the life force in the body. Balance is the key, just like in nature, where species have a respect for the timing of mating and a natural balance in consumption. As we move up to the fourth center, it's not about consumption anymore. It's about the expansion of energy. This is where we touch the ceiling of the ego, where power resides. And remember Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, where the ring symbolized power. Well, throwing that ring away meant giving up power for something greater: love. Love operates at a higher frequency, a different intent. Each center has its own frequency, carrying unique information. Now, when energy reaches the fourth center, it's a bridge to our divinity. Putting your attention on it not only creates heart coherence, but releases a cascade of 1,400 different biological chemicals that restore and repair the body. Gratitude, love, freedom. These emotions operate at a different frequency, and they have a profound impact on our well-being. This is where selflessness begins, transcending the selfish nature of the first three centers. And can you activate this center intentionally? Absolutely. When you activate the fourth center and make love to someone, it's a giving way, a different consciousness than when it's driven by the first center. True love, when two individuals come together in that manner, creates a beautiful exchange of energy, a growth, a summation of energy. Now, as energy sits in the first center, it's crucial to allow it to move into the second center by creating a safe environment. When you feel safe, your body is in balance, and all the essential biological functions take place in the second center. But when the environment becomes unsafe, the autonomic nervous system kicks in, redirecting energy to deal with the threat. This is where our consciousness becomes localized in space and time. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. Many of us expend most of our energy in the first three centers, thinking and feeling, and this is how we currently see the world, as a physical, mechanical machine governed by chemistry and atoms. But the new understanding, rooted in quantum physics, emphasizes the focus on invisible energy, including thoughts and beliefs. It's the invisible energy that controls the physical world, much like what ancient spiritual teachings have always conveyed. In today's world, science is reconnecting us with the ancient wisdom that we are energy beings inhabiting a physical body. The field in quantum physics aligns with the concept of spirit, invisible moving forces influencing the physical world. It's time to honor the energy part, the invisible stuff that we've neglected for too long, because, surprise, it's more powerful than the physical stuff. Shifting our beliefs and recognizing the power of our thoughts becomes the game changer. Exercising our thoughts, not just our wallets, in controlling the world becomes the key. Quantum physics tells us that consciousness creates the world, and collectively our consciousness can change the world. So when people say, oh, the world's out of control, I say, no, let's consciously create a different world. Each one of you, every viewer, represents another consciousness that together can reshape our reality. We've journeyed from a church-based spiritual model to a science-based physical model. And now the evolution is about bringing both together. It's not just spiritual or material, it's the synergy of both that makes the world. Our consciousness, our energy, our thoughts, they're not physical, they're energy. And guess what? Science tells us that these thoughts shape the physical world. We can manifest the world we want by changing our thoughts, and that means rewiring the programming in the subconscious. Let's dig a little deeper into this eye-opening revelation. Picture this: 95% of what goes on in our lives happens behind the scenes, in a place we don't usually pay much attention to, our subconscious. It's like a hidden puppet master pulling the strings of our daily experiences. You see, many times we consciously decide what we want in life: success, great relationships, that dream job. We set these intentions with all our heart and mind. But here's the twist. If our subconscious is playing a different tune, that's what shapes our reality. It's a bit like having a secret script running in the background, influencing the scenes of our life without us even realizing it. This part of our mind, below the surface of our everyday awareness, is the invisible force sculpting our experiences. So when things aren't lining up the way we planned, it's not the outside world playing tricks on us. It's not some external force blocking our path to success. No, the real deal is the programming tucked away within our subconscious. It's time for a wake-up call, a realization that the thoughts bubbling beneath our conscious awareness wield immense power. Think of it this way: we're not just wandering through life at the mercy of circumstances. We're conscious beings, fully capable of shaping our own destinies. And here's the beauty: when we come together, when our individual consciousness joins forces with the collective consciousness, we have the power to change the world. You're not a helpless victim tossed around by the waves of the world. Instead, you're the mastermind, the creator of your own world. It's an empowering shift in perspective, recognizing that our thoughts are like magic spells, creating the reality we experience. Now imagine this shift happening on a grand scale. Picture humanity as one giant team, all of us connecting in one immense consciousness. We're in this together, undergoing a profound evolution in how we relate to each other through our consciousness. It's not just about the tangible, physical aspects of life. No, it's the delicate dance between spirit and matter that collectively shapes our world. And here's the heart of it. Consciousness is the key. It's not just about what we see and touch, it's about the energy flowing within us, the thoughts weaving the fabric of our reality. By acknowledging both the spiritual and material aspects of our existence, we unlock the true essence of consciousness. So let's start exercising our thoughts, changing our beliefs, and recognizing the incredible power within. The field of possibilities is vast, and each one of you contributes to the collective shift. Remember, it's not just the physical, it's the invisible energy that shapes our reality. It's time to consciously create the world we want. Embrace the power of your thoughts, and together, let's manifest a world of love, abundance, and infinite possibilities. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. When people start reaching this moment, my goodness, they're overcoming themselves. Now they're at that perfect place to create. My definition of creation is when I forget about myself. That's when you're free. If the word meditation means become familiar with, then people say, oh, well, you shouldn't focus on the negative. Well, really? That's 95% of who you are. You got to begin to dismantle or denature that old personality. That means you're going to have to come up against the cravings that the body has emotionally. It's 8 o'clock in the morning and you're doing your meditation. You're normally in traffic and you want to get angry and your body's going, hey, you're off schedule. Let me just find something that's mapped in the brain that I'm bringing up a past experience so you can feel a little anger. Once you become aware of that, now the game is on. because now you're working to become conscious of that and not go unconscious again. It takes an incredible amount of awareness. It takes a great amount of consciousness. You can't have consciousness without energy. You got to raise your energy in order to get to it. Otherwise, you're going to be consumed. You're going to return back. If you start becoming familiar, so conscious of those unconscious thoughts, they would never slip by your mind and check by you. That is when you really catch yourself. The research shows that you can get better at this. You can actually sense the thought before it comes. Then you start firing and wiring new thoughts. You start thinking to yourself, who am I going to be when I open my eyes? How am I going to make a difference in the world today? Who am I going to be? How am I going to love? How am I going to give? How am I going to serve? How am I going to contribute? What things do I want to really do today? The act of closing your eyes and just thinking about and rehearsing what you're going to do, your brain doesn't know the difference. If you get caught up in it, you begin to install the neurological hardware in your brain to look like you've already done it. Now the brain's no longer a record of the past. Now it's a map to the future. You are priming your brain. If you keep doing it, the hardware will become a software program. You know what that means? You just might start acting like a happy person. There's no surprise there. You install the circuits. Let's think about it. How are you going to make thought more real than anything else? How are you going to create from thought? Let's close our eyes. Let's disconnect from the environment. Less sensory information coming into the brain. Less distraction, as you said. Let's play some soft music in the background. Let's stick some earplugs in our ear. Whatever you want to do, diminish sensory. Now you're sitting down. You're not eating, you're not tasting, you're not smelling, you're not feeling. So there's less sensory input coming to your body. So then now your brainwaves begin to change. They start slowing down. You move from this beta brainwave pattern where you're aware that you have a body in space and time, or your attention is on the outer world, or your senses are giving you information. Less sensory information. Now your inner world starts becoming more real than the outer world. The voice in your head that's always talking to you, as your brain waves change, you start seeing images and pictures and symbols, and less in that vocalization, that sub-vocalization. So your brain waves start changing the alpha. You're gonna start creating, start dreaming, pretending. So then if you say to your body, you're gonna sit down for an hour, and I know you're on a program because you wake up every morning and do the exact same thing, and now I'm gonna make you sit, just like you say to an animal. You sit, you stay, and your body's gonna say, I'm gonna die, my bladder's going to explode, I need a coffee, I got a lot of emails to do. That's the program. And you say to your body, today we do battle, today this is it, and you sit through that, and you make your way, even though your body's trying to get up and you keep settling it back down. I'm telling you, when you start your day that day, you will be more kind, more loving, less judgmental, more patient, more present, because you're mastering the present moment. That means you're not in the predictable future. You're not in the familiar past. You're mastering time. And so then if where you place your attention is where you place your energy, and all of your attention is in the present moment, you've got a lot of energy to do amazing things. And you know when someone's present with you in your life because they're paying attention to you. And you know when they're not present with you because they're not paying attention to you. So the act of getting more present means you're putting a lot of energy in the present moment, and you're taking your power back from all these things and people in your life. So we teach people this. As they start breaking through and they start being able to unfold into this field as an awareness, and they're not putting their attention on their boss or their ex or their wife or their kids or their cell phone or their WhatsApp or their Facebook, they're not thinking at all. So then as they're sensing the space, they can't think. And if you can't think, you can't analyze. And if you can't analyze, the analytical mind is what separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind. Just open the door. Wow. And so now you can reprogram in there. So then it's so important then that of the infinite places, you can put your attention, let's put it on your heart. Now where you place your attention is where you place your energy. Why? Because we want this center to bloom. I think we're a reality-producing machines. I mean, there's no single individual on this planet who doesn't create reality unless they have a brain injury or something. But for the most part, most of us are engaged in reality. I love the idea that every human being is either lives in one of two states of mind. We either live in creation, which is growth and expansion, and its health and homeostasis, the emotions of love and joy and trust that make us feel connected to something bigger than us. Or we live in a state of survival, and a state of survival is living in stress. And living in stress is when your body is knocked out of balance. And the redundancy of that cycle over time, that imbalance that keeps happening, begins to break the body down. And I think the biggest problem for us, because of the size of our brains, is we can turn on the stress response just by thought alone. We do it all day long. In that continuous, redundant being out of balance over time, that imbalance becomes the new balance. And now we're headed for contraction and disease and feeling separate from the field and being selfish instead of selfless. We begin to live in a state of breakdown, in a state of disease and a lack of health. And so then those emotions then of those survival chemicals endorse the ego. And then we become more self-indulgent and more self-important and more self-serving, because that's what those chemicals do. So we live in one of those two states of mind, and those chemicals tend to be highly addictive. So this is a really good dinner conversation. We can talk about it, right? But actually breaking through, that's, I think, when you free yourself from the chains of those emotions that we memorize, when we actually break through, when we remove that mind out of the body, when we break the emotion that's trapped in physical flesh and the body's liberated, that's true self-love, that's true joy. It's the liberation of energy. So the anger that once was in there, the hatred that was once in there, the prejudice that was once in there is transformed, it's transmuted into joy. It's the same energy, but it just has a different spin. And so no one can do that for you. That isn't something where someone waves a wand and then it happens. You have to actually be willing to be uncomfortable as you break that addiction and be okay with it. But the moment the body's liberated and you feel that expansion, that's the natural state of being. Now you say, I love myself so much because I went further than I thought I could go. I transcended some limitation about myself in the way I think, in the way I act, in the way I feel. That's the personality. That's the identity. Changing one of those things, really changing it, not just like changing your mind like I want vanilla ice cream instead of chocolate ice cream, but truly changing something that changes your neurology, your neurocircuitry, changes the chemistry, which is your emotions that signal the gene that begins to change your very expression of health, your very expression of life. So if you're talking about manifesting your dreams, well, it only requires two things. It requires a clear intention. An intention is a vision, a possibility. The moment you say, what would it be like to be healthy? What would it be like to be wealthy? What would it be like to have a new home? What would it be like to have a great job? And you get this idea in your mind, that's intention. Then you write down the details. Okay, I want to travel around the world. I want to have great benefits, great insurance. I want to work with really cool people. I want to have a chance to be creative. And you list all of those individual elements to fortify your dream. The more you get clear on those details, the more your brain begins to work in new ways. Anytime you make your brain work differently, you're changing your mind. Now, the moment you get inspired and you begin to feel what it would be like to live in that future, your body is getting a chemical sampling, an emotional sampling. It's getting a taste of the future. In other words, you have to feel awe in order for the mystical moment to happen. You have to feel abundance before your wealth can occur. You have to feel in love with life before your new relationship happens. And the moment you do that, you step into the unknown. The hardest part about change, really, in creating the life that you want, being defined by a vision of the future instead of a memory of the past, is not making the same choices you did the day before. So for me personally, I want to execute and be defined by a vision of the future instead of the memories of the past. So most people's brains are organized to reflect everything they know in their life. Their brain is a record of the past. And if you feel the same way every single day, it means, number one, nothing new is happening in your life. And number two, those emotions are keeping you anchored to the past. If thoughts are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body, and how you think and how you feel creates a state of being, most people are literally connected to a past. So can you then maintain that vision, that view of your future, independent of the conditions in your environment, independent of the emotional addictions or conditionings or habits of the body, and independent of time? Because if you can, that's what greatness is all about. That's when we begin to truly change. And people around the world are doing this consistently. And they're doing it really well because it's our natural, innate way of being. The challenge is then to every day be defined by a vision of the future. So then, when you combine a clear intention, that's a thoughtful process, with an elevated emotion, a heartfelt state of being, thoughts are the language of the brain, feelings are the language of the body. When you truly do that, your brain and body are living in the future instead of living in the past, and you're going to be drawn to some new event. Thoughts are the electrical charge in the quantum field, and feelings are the magnetic charge, and how you think and how you feel broadcasts an electromagnetic signature that influences every single atom in your life. So here's the question then. The fundamental question is, it's going to take time to pull your brain and body out of the past and continuously invest your energy into the future. So can you then maintain that vision, that view of your future, independent of the conditions in your environment, independent of the emotional addictions or conditionings or habits of the body, and independent of time? Because if you can, that's what greatness is all about. That's when we begin to truly change. Now, the latest research in neuroscience and neuroplasticity tells us we can change our brain to look like the event has already occurred. And can we begin to emotionally embrace a future reality that's a potential in the quantum field, and begin to emotionally embrace it to such a degree that we fall in love with that future reality, that our body, as our unconscious mind, begins to believe it's living in that future reality in the present moment, and we're signaling new genes and new ways to change our body to look like the experience has already occurred in preparation for the event. We're not defining reality by our senses, because we're not waiting then for anything outside of us to change how we feel inside of us. So if there's physical evidence in your brain and body to look like the experience has already occurred, physical evidence. The most difficult part about being sick is being able to think greater than how you feel. And if you can't think greater than how you feel, then your body is dictating your life. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, but let's just say that a person has mismanaged their energy and mismanaged their emotions and mismanaged their lifestyle for the last 10 years. And ultimately, they develop some type of condition. Well, it was the continuous imbalance that was knocking on the genetic door that finally programmed the gene into sickness. So it took them 10 years to finally create that condition. And we have to be real here and understand that it's going to take some time to knock on the genetic door and begin to reprogram the gene in a new way. So it's not like you do your meditation 2 days and you expect to be healed. That it's a process and it's a skill. And it requires repetition, and it requires understanding, and it requires regrouping and relearning, and requires filling your brain with knowledge, and it requires staying consistent with it to begin to see some effects. And it's just like catching a fish. The moment you hook one, the moment you notice some change in your body, the moment something begins to change, that's all you need. Because once you get that feeling, that sensation, you're going to correlate what you're doing inside of you with the effect you produce outside of you. And you're going to start doing it with more passion and more sincerity and more absolute certainty. So the cool thing about all of this is that, let's just say you're able to change your brainwaves and get beyond your analytical mind because you've been practicing your meditation every single day. And let's say that you reach that elegant moment of the generous present moment now where you forget about your appointments, you forget about your relationships, you forget about all the things you did yesterday. You're so present in the moment that you're not a face any longer, that you're not a body, that you're not an identity, that you don't own anything. You're pure consciousness. That's the moment your consciousness merges with a greater consciousness. And that is the moment when your conscious mind begins to merge with your subconscious mind, that you're in the operating system where true change can take place. So if you're practicing overcoming your body every single day in meditation and you're sick, then when you sit down in your meditation, you should be able to get beyond your awareness of being a body. And if you're able to do that, then your body is no longer the mind, and you can begin to work with your body and recondition it to a new mind. If you don't have the ability to get beyond your body in the meditation, then you're your body trying to change your body. Your matter trying to change matter, and it produces very slow effects over time. Now it will produce some effects, but it's going to take some time. So then if you're practicing your ability to regulate and change your brain waves and to get beyond your body, get beyond your identity, get beyond space and time, if you do that really well, when it comes time for you to heal your body and you have the ability to get beyond your body, no matter how sick it is, every time you get beyond your body, you are consciousness with a certain energy instructing your body, not from the body, but from an epiphenomenological place, which is greater than your body. So I think that, again, to demystify the process, it requires some training. And when people start getting to that point where they get beyond themselves, that's when the magic happens over and over again. So yeah, in the beginning, it's going to be difficult because you're in a body, and then you start doing the meditations, and then you look to see, am I any better? Now, your brain is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. Your brain is a reflection of your external environment. It's an artifact of all the things you've learned and experienced to date. Feelings and emotions are the end product of past experiences. And if you're feeling the same way every single day, it means two things. Number one, nothing new is happening in your life. And if those emotions are driving certain thoughts, and those thoughts then are creating the same emotions, then your thinking equal to your emotional state means you're thinking in the past. And if you believe that your thoughts have something to do with your destiny, as long as you're thinking equal to your familiar emotions, you keep reaffirming the same past experiences in your life over and over again. Our research shows, without a doubt, in the last 3 years, that when students of our work combine a clear intention. Now, intention is a vision, a potential that already exists in the quantum field that you get to select. And when you ask yourself a question like, what would it be like to be healthy? What would it be like to be wealthy? What would it be like to be free or to be in love? The moment you ask that creative question, a part of your brain called the frontal lobe turns on. That's the crowning achievement of the human being. Once that area of the brain turns on, it's like a great symphony leader. It looks out of the landscape of the entire brain, and it begins to randomly select different networks of neurons that are connected to the things you've learned in your life or the experiences you've had. And it begins to seamlessly paste them together to create an ideal, a vision, or an internal representation. That is a potential experience that's awaiting you. And it's not enough to just have the mind involved. Thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. And how you think and how you feel creates a state of being. Once you can begin to emotionally embrace that future reality before it's made manifest, when you combine that clear intention with an elevated emotion, the freedom, the joy, the inspiration, the genuine love that you feel or gratitude from that experience, the moment you do that, your body as the unconscious mind begins to believe it's living in that future reality in the present moment. Now you're moving into a new state of being, into a new personality. And a new personality creates a new personal reality. The research that we've done shows that when we teach people how to regulate their internal states, to begin to create more coherence in their brain, and to generate elevated emotions like joy and gratitude and inspiration, that not only does the brain become coherent, but so does the heart. And when the brain is coherent, the heart is coherent. When the heart is coherent, the brain is coherent. So why don't we live by these states on a daily basis? Primarily because the majority of the time that we live in our waking state of consciousness, 70% of the time, you and I are living by the hormones of stress. And living in stress is living in survival. And when you're living in survival, the very chemicals of survival cause you to function as materialists, defining your reality with your senses. You pay attention to objects and things and people. You begin to believe that your outer world is more real than your inner world. And the side effect of this, over time, begins to cause us to feel separate from possibility. Why? Because when you're threatened by some predator or some danger in your life, it's not a time to go in. It's not a time to trust the unknown. It's not a time to open your heart and feel love. It's not a time to communicate. It's not a time to create. It's not a time to learn. It's a time to survive. So then, in order for us to create, we have to lay down the very thing we used our whole life to get what we want for something greater to occur. And most importantly, we want you to understand when you're in the creative state and when you're not. And if you were to take a little time every day and apply some of the principles in changing beliefs and perceptions about yourself and your life, and what is a belief other than a thought you keep thinking over and over again? And all beliefs are based on past experiences. And in order for you to change a belief or perception about yourself and your life, you have to make a decision with such firm intention